Welcome back to our Revive Your Body series. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how to build that mind-muscle connection and why we like to use resistance, tempo, or time under tension training. If you haven't seen the first part of this video that we talk about how our joints are stacked in mobile and stable joints, go take a look at that before you watch this video. I'll have a link in the bio as well too. So today we're going to talk about building the mind-muscle connection. So we have to understand what the mind-muscle connection is. The mind-muscle connection is the ability to think about a movement, think about the muscles that are doing the movement, and then actually feel that movement. Nadine, before you got into fitness, or one of the first things that you did in fitness is you did a bodybuilding program, right? Yeah. And if you've seen any videos that Nadine is, her body is very defined. She has a lot of shape to her body, a lot of tone to her body, along with the strength and the muscle. And a lot of that was because of the mind-muscle connection that you've built through bodybuilding. Why? What does that mean to you? Like when you're talking about the mind-muscle connection, and how is it important in bodybuilding?
With the mind-muscle connection for bodybuilding, you actually really have to kind of think about what muscles you're activating. And I remember I would like come up with like visions in my mind. Like if I was doing like a lat pull down, I would actually envision the muscle actually kind of pulling down and kind of squeezing and stuff like that. Or if I'm doing a deadlift, think about actually stretching the hamstrings, and I would envision that. But I feel like it really kind of set me up to have a good base coming into more heavy lifting and more intense movement. So I think it's super important to build that mind-muscle connection first and be able to really activate your muscles and kind of know what muscles you're trying to activate before you go into more of the high intensity, heavy lifting type of stuff.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Is sometimes we lose this mind-muscle connection just with, like we talked about in the last video, just the positions we are throughout the day, and we're not utilizing those muscles. They kind of just slightly turn off, or like I like to say is the GPS signal grows weak. It's like your cell phone, where we can still do that movement, we could still perform it, but maybe it doesn't feel strong. Maybe it feels a little bit funky. It just doesn't feel right. And our goal is try to strengthen that GPS signal. Now, this has to do a lot within yourself. You have to really teach yourself and act to learn, to slow down, to feel, to lighten up a lot of that load. But there's a real easy way that we can get that feedback a lot easier. Now, in some gyms, we do high intensity workouts and we only perform one direction of that, especially when we're going heavy. So the body needs a push and pull with everything, right? So whatever muscle is doing the action, we also have a muscle resisting that action. And a lot of times we can use gravity rather than that muscle to do the opposite action. For instance, I can have Nadine here. She can deadlift the bar all the way up and all the way down. So glutes and hamstrings, quads, lift that body up, and then on the way down, she's also going to feel that muscle engagement and comes down to the ground and relaxes. Now we're exercising both sides of the muscle by doing the concentric movement, which is kind of standing that bar up in the deadlift, and the eccentric movement, which is resisting gravity on the way down, which is actually going to get you a lot more strength than the concentric action of it. But a lot of times when we're in workouts, whether we're in group classes and we're pushing this speed and we're pushing this thing, we just want to get the workout done for whatever reason, whether it's to beat somebody, if it's competition and stuff like that. And if we don't have a mind-muscle connection built up, this could actually hurt and lead to more injury going into the body. So for instance, if we're doing a deadlift and we just drop it at the top. So you've only worked one side of the muscles pretty much. We only work that concentric aspect of that. So we're sending a GPS signal that's 50% of what we could for that body. And if we do this year after year, whatever movements and just constantly dropping bars, we're not building the opposite movement of that. And that's when we start feeling pain in the lower back. That's when we start feeling the pain in the hip and to the shoulder and stuff. So what we want to do is we want to create a little bit of a push and pull. So for instance too, like a good way to start is if you put your hands straight out, and we're going to match hands right here. Good. So what you're going to do is you're going to resist a little bit. You're going to bend the elbow and allow this to go into almost like a pressing position, but I'm going to create that, and you're just going to resist it a little bit and let it go all the way down. But you can feel the muscles working as I'm applying pressure, and if she pushes back and straightens out, I'm giving her resistance again. This is the push and pull of the muscles, and we can do that again. So we're feeling the feedback. Now, if I push too hard on her, she's probably not going to be feeling it into the pec or feeling it into the bicep and tricep. She's going to feel it all into the shoulder because there's so much power that the body needs to compensate and recruit more muscles. So it's very important that when we start, we're only looking at a little bit, a light feeling of that push and pull of what we're doing. So that's a really good way in general, is if you're trying to feel a muscle, have somebody do that movement. So if you're pressing up overhead, you can put your hands in a press position. And if someone kind of pushes down and push up and then create resistance as she comes down, I'm still creating resistance, she's going to be able to feel those muscles working. You're going to get a much stronger mind-muscle connection than if I had her just pressing this plate up with one hand and immediately just dropping it right back down. Now, you are doing a little bit of the eccentric on there, but there is really no load, so you're not getting the feedback. So if we could slow that down a little bit and do that tempo work, now on the way down, we're going to feel a little bit more. It's going to be a lot harder too, but this is what's going to help build that mind-muscle connection. And we also have another way to do this too if you don't have someone to push and pull. I'm going to steal that from you. Can you grab that band for me, please, up there? Another way is resistance bands, and the resistance bands are so valuable. And I remember going to like a Anytime Fitness or whatever, and you'd see those people in there, and they're doing this stuff with these bands, and you're like, what is this fool doing? Why doesn't he just lift weights? It's really cool. And the fact of the matter is these resistance bands needs to be a part of your workout. And I don't mean necessarily every aspect of the workout. I don't mean that it needs to be part of every day, but just as we lift heavy, just like we do cardio, sometimes we do higher intensity, sometimes we do more reps, sometimes we do more strength, you also need to throw this resistance stuff in. So I'm going to have Nadine do a banded deadlift. So she's going to set up and tuck this underneath both of her feet. Actually, even with, let's do it that way. We can even do it this way. So keep that weight light. She's going to do a band on there, step on that band. And now what she's going to do is do this deadlift. And we're going to do it slow and controlled. And as she comes up and comes down, she's going to get a lot more feedback into that movement. Good. We'll do one more rep. And relax. What's also good about this is it's going to identify when that pain starts to kick in. So if you do have low back and you start grabbing it right from the get-go, it might kick in. Well, maybe that will help us identify certain things about your hinge, and we're not going to dive into that too much, but it's going to also help identify where the problem areas really are into your body. So we want to make sure that we focus on building that mind-muscle connection by using tempo into the body of something like this. We're creating time under tension because we're having a consistent resistance on the way up and down. We want to slow down those movements, find out what's going on before we could speed that up. But in general, when you're looking at that mind-muscle connection, you really want to look at the push and the pull of the muscles and think about that. I know in group classes, we are always talking about that in general, trying to slow things down, feeling the movements. And sometimes you're not going to feel the movement. Sometimes you're going to do that movement and you're doing it, and I'm like, hey, do you feel your hamstrings? And you're going to be like, I don't. And that's okay. It's just like riding a bike and finding that, like, to get the training wheels off. The first time you're riding it, you don't really know with the wheels off of what you're doing. Sooner or later, it becomes second nature, and you're just doing that movement or just riding that bike without even thinking about it, and you could feel those muscles working. So, Primal Path is definitely a lot about building that mind-muscle connection, whether that's, through injury, just your posture that goes throughout the day. There's a million different things that we can do that. And a lot of times what we see is those physical therapists that we go to, they give you an exercise to do, and you just do the exercise, but you don't heal, and you have more and more problems. This is where this resistance training comes in, or just start asking those questions. And that's what this is, to educate you guys. So when you go to the physical therapist for an issue that you had for so long, or you just had surgery, that you could bring those questions up to those physical therapists and see about their knowledge in general, and to have them answer the questions, because I found that a lot of them are there just going through the way that the system is set up of asking these questions, giving these exercises, and that's it. You definitely want to find a physical therapist, if you're going there, with someone who understands human anatomy, understands the way that the body moves, and not only just gives you the exercises, but also describes on what you should be feeling when you're doing those exercises, what muscles you should be doing, and then also providing a way for you to feel that movement. So when you're doing these exercises at home or wherever it may be, that you know you're doing them right. And there's no such thing as a bad movement. There's just more efficient movements that we can have, and we can have movements that actually help correct and rewire that GPS signal. So it's not just jumping over the muscles that we haven't used to get the work done, which is so great about the body, but it actually uses the most efficient path to recruit more muscle. The cool part about this too, like we talked about in general about bodybuilding, is that when you do this and you build that mind-muscle connection, that's when you're going to see a lot more shape out of your muscles. So if you've been like lifting, you're going to the gym all the time and hitting the workouts hard all the time, and you feel like you're eating right and you're just not getting that maybe the shape that you want out of the muscles or the size or something like that, sometimes it's going a little bit less, going through resistance and trying to burn those muscles out, maybe not going full range as well, because as soon as we get into that mind-muscle connection, sometimes we could feel the muscle here, but if I go here, I lose that connection of what I'm doing too. So limit that range of motion so we could feel the muscle until it feels strong, continue to make it stronger, continue to increase the range of motion, and once we have that after a while, throw them in. You can go them and hit the intensity on that, but we should never be jumping to intensity before we have that mind-muscle connection built. Or if we don't have it built, we're working towards getting that, but still able to move efficiently throughout the workouts. And the biggest thing is pain-free. We don't want pain. We don't want pain when we work out. Discomfort's okay, pain is not. So push and pull of movements, guys. Think about that. Build that mind-muscle connection. If you guys got questions, obviously reach out to us here at Primal Path. This is part 2 of 5, so we've got plenty of videos coming out for you. And like I said, link in the bio of the one for last week, and then we'll also drop another one next Monday. Cheers.